Now when we finish the installation, so when we start the server, when we start our Linux, we will see this welcome login screen here. Now in the login screen, what we see here, and the top you will see the time, day and time, and in this side you will see the option for the accessibility tools. This is what the accessibility tools we have, and accessibility tools like we can increase the contrast, we can zoom, enlarge the text, we can enable the screen reader, and also we can enable the screen keyboard. So if our keyboard is not working, so we can go for the on-screen keyboard also. So these options are there, and then here we have the option to shut down, reboot the system. We have option for network, but we can't select this because we are not logged in, and also we have option to adjust the volume here. Down there it is saying that this is Red Hat, and here we see the user account. The user account which we created at the time of installation, there is only one account we have, so it shows that account name here, and we can log in with this user account. So when I click on this, so it asks the password for this account, so you have to provide the password and then click on sign in. And it is going to log in to this user. Now when first time the user logs in, so it asks for this graphical some settings to be configured. It says select the language for you, so you can select language for you, go next, then select the typing language. So it is also keyboard layout is US by default selected. If you want anything else, then you can select that also. And now all set, we can start. Now start using the Red Hat Enterprise Linux server here. Now when you click here, it says okay, you can now ready to start. And here it will give you a brief introduction for the graphical interface. Now this is the graphical interface, and this is actually GNOME interface. It is GNOME interface, and this is a help for this GNOME interface where you can see these how to use these graphical tools or graphical GNOME interface. There are some common getting started things are there. So if you want, then you can go with this. Now this is the first time you see when you log into a user first time. Now this is what the desktop, and we are logged in as a normal user. Remember, the user which we are logged in is a normal user. It is not an administrator, but it has some privilege of administrator because we created this user account when we are installing the system. So it has some privileges of or we can say it is having the privilege to run the administrative tasks, but it is not the default administrator. The default administrator is root, and we are not logged in as a root, we are logged in as a normal user account. Now what we have here on the desktop, this is the GNOME desktop environment. Now GNOME desktop environment looks like this, where you see the desktop screen here, you see the recycle bin here, and you will see the home folder here. Home folder is of this user's home folder. That means if anything user do save on the desktop, it saves on the download or documents, so all the files will go into this home folder. If you open this, so you can see these are the folders here, like desktop folder where all the desktop files will go there, document folders to save the documents, and when the user downloads anything, so it goes to this download folder. It has some music, pictures folder, public folder, templates folder, and video folders. So in these folders, or we can say directories, it can save these files. This is for the user which we are logged in. Then on this side it is having the options to see the date and time. Then it has option for adjusting the volume, making the network enable and disable, and configuring the network. And it is the user account which we are logged in, and this is the setting for this user account. This is to log the user account and log the screen, and this is for the restart and shut down. Now when you click on the user account, you will see the logout option. So if you want to log out from this user, you can click here to log out. Now here in this side you will see the application tab. Now in the application tab you will get all the applications which is installed by default. So these are the applications which is installed, and these are the applications which we have selected to install at the time of installation. So these are the graphical tools. Basically these are graphical tools which we can use to install. Like we have some favorite tools like this Firefox browser. It's a browser. This is a default browser for Linux, RHEL Linux. It is open source. Then we have the file manager here, application installer, help, and terminal to run some commands. This is the favorite tools. Then we have accessories. We have different accessories. We have clock, calculator, contacts, documents, file explorer. We have different tools. Then we have the documentation here. Under the documentation you will get the help, you will get the release note of this Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Then you have graphics. These are some graphics tools to do some graphic things. Then we have the internet tools. Then we have some office tool. Then we have the programming tool. Then we have the sound and video tools. We have sundry tools also. Then we have system tools. We have universal access tool. Then we have some utilities tools, and there is some other tools also there. Now these are all graphical tools which we can use to manage our this desktop server. Then in this side we have places. Places, that means home folder. Home folder, that means this is the folder. This is the folder which is we have a link here also, and under the home folder we have document, download, music, picture, and videos. So if we want to go there, so we can select any of this. Then we have the computer option here. This is the computer option like we have in Windows, this PC. Then this is what browse network. So if you want to connect the network and network files, network shares, then you can use it from here. Then this is the computer. This is a computer like you see in Windows, this PC. Now when you click on this PC, you will not see any partition here. Not like Windows, it is not showing any partition. So what it is showing here is a file system. And this PC, this computer is actually a slash. It is a root of file system. It is a slash, and under the slash we have all these directories, all these folders. And even if you create any directories, wherever you create any directories, any data, it will still go under the slash. For example, suppose if I create any file on this desktop, so where it is going to be stored? So it is going to be stored into this home directory, under the home directory on this desktop directory. Now where this desktop directory is, so this desktop directory is under this slash, under the home directory, because all the normal users home directory will go to here, and under that we can see this is our home directory for this user tech. And you can see the home symbol here, that is the same symbol you can see here also. So this is the same exact directory, this is here. So anything we save on desktop, it will go under this, on this desktop folder. So basically it is going under desktop. Desktop is going under the home directory of this tech user, and tech user's home directory is under slash home, under the home, and this home directory is under slash. So anything we create in this machine, it is going to be under slash. It will always remain under slash. So we will not see any partitions, but the partitions are linked, or we can say it is mounted on these directories. So there is a slash which is the root of the file system, and we have a partition which is mounted on this slash. So on the slash we have a partition which is mounted on that. So if you save any file, any directory here in this, so it is going to be stored under the slash. Now this boot directory is also under the slash, but this boot directory has a different partition. So if I save any file under this boot directory, it will not go under the slash partition. It will go into the separate partition. So we have a separate partition for this. So whatever we save under this boot directory or even this home directory also, we have created the partition for the home directory. So whatever I save in the home directory or boot directory, it will not save under the slash partition. It will save under a different partition. But still those two directories they show under the slash. They will still remain under the slash. So whenever you open the slash directory, you will see these directories inside it. So just like this, we can create other partitions for the other directories also. Now these are the system directories. These directories we have not created. We have created a partition for mounting on these directories, but we have not created any directory. These are the system directories, and whenever or whether you create this or not, these directories will always be created. We can compare this as in Windows we have C drive. Under the C drive we have some system directories and files. We don't create them, but when we install the operating system, those files automatically created. So these directories are the system directories, and these directories will be created after the installation whether we want it or not. But these directories, we can create partitions for these directories. So as we required, based on the type of the directory or what the data is stored into the directory, we can create a separate partition for it. Otherwise all the data will go under the slash. So whatever the partition which is linked or mounted on that slash, it is going under that slash, under that partition. Now what these system directories are and what they do. So from the beginning, first we see this is the bin directory. Now this bin directory is actually for binary files. Binary files, that means it stores all the binary executable files, and those executable files are actually the commands. So whatever commands we run, those command files will be stored, the files will be stored into this bin directory. Like for example, I want to run copy command. So the copy command is actually a binary file, it is designed, and that file is stored into this bin directory. Because you know this Linux is actually file based operating system. It is also called as a file based operating system. That means anything or everything in this Linux system is actually a file. So whatever you see in the Linux, it is actually a file. So all the commands we run in the Linux system, those commands are having a file. Those commands files are stored into this bin directory. So all the commands are there. So whatever we run, like we run copy command, so what the copy command will do and how it is going to work. So for that there is a binary file configured or designed, and that file is stored into this bin directory. Now this bin directory is for everyone. That means all the users can run the commands from this bin directory, whether it is administrator root or whether it is the normal user. So everyone can run the command from this directory. But there is one more bin, and that is called sbin, which is this directory. Now this sbin directory is for super user binary. This directory has the files, has the binary files, has the command binary files that can be only run by the root user. Root user, that means the administrator, that means the super user. So the commands from this directory is only for the administrator and super user, we can say, and the command for the everyone is stored into this bin directory. Both the directories have a commands, and both the command files, both the directories has the command files, but only the command files can be executed by the everyone will be stored into bin, and the commands which can only be executed by the super user is stored into this sbin directory. Now the next directory is the boot directory. This boot directory consists of the bootable files, the files which is required to boot the system. Required to boot the system, for example, the kernel. Kernel is an operating system, is a core code of the operating system, and that kernel file is also stored into this boot directory. So all the we have all the other files also required to boot the system. So those all files are stored into this boot directory. Now because it is having a bootable files, it need a separate partition for it, and for that when we install the system, we created a separate partition for this boot. So because it needs a separate partition, because it has a bootable files, and always this partition which is mounted on this boot directory will always be the first partition, so that it can store the bootable files in the beginning of the boot, and it can start the system from there. Then we have this dev directory. Under this dev directory we have all the devices file. Devices file, for example, we are having the network device, we are having the device, hard disk device, RAM device, we have all the devices. So all the devices file stored into this dev directory. It can we can assume like all the drivers for the devices will be stored into this dev directory. So for example, the hard disk file. So the hard disk. So for the hard disk, there is a file called SDA. The name of the hard disk, system name of the hard disk is SDA. So all the SDA files and the partitions we created, those also as a file is stored into this directory. For example, what is the hard disk we have, what is the type of a hard disk, how to connect, and what is the properties of that hard disk. So all these things are written into the file, and that file is stored into this directory. Now this is actually devices directory. Then we have this directory, it is called etc. Now this etc directory stores all the configuration files. Remember I told you that the Linux system is actually file based operating system, and file based operating system, that means if we want to do any changes, if we want to configure any changes, if we want to do any changes in this Linux, so the easy way and the simple thing is that you have to change into any file. For example, you want to configure something. For example, you want to configure IP addresses. So where you can configure directly on the file. You can write the configuration file, you can edit the configuration file for the IP addresses, and then your changes will be updated. So whatever you want to do, everything you will do it on the configuration files. Now those all configuration files are stored into this directory. So in this directory we have all the configuration files stored. Then this home directory is for the home users, normal users home directory. So when we create a normal users, those normal users home directory goes into this home. Now we have one normal user which is we are logged in right now. So if you open this home directory, you can see that users home directory, which also you can see the shortcut on desktop. This is the link, this is a shortcut here, but the actual location is here under the home directory. And we can see the home symbol here because we are logged in as a tech user, so we can see the home symbol there. So when we create any other user, any normal user other than root, then those home directories will go here. Now because we can create lots of different users and multiple users and thousands or hundreds of users, so all the users home directory will go here. And remember, when the user logs in and they will store anything on their desktop, document, downloads, it will go on to store into this home directory. Now home directory is under slash, so if you store anything here, it is going to be stored into the slash partition. Now under the slash partition we are having some system files also stored. So if you don't want to put a load on that, if you don't want to consume the space for this partition, from this partition, the slash partition, so we can do what? We can create a separate partition for this home directory. That is what it create automatically also when you are having more than 50 GB hard disk. So if we are having more than 50 GB hard disk, so automatically it will create the partition, separate partition for home directory, because it will have all the users data, and users data can be a big data. So it will not fill the, it will not fill the space for the system files, and for that reason it needs a different partition. So we create the different partition for this home directory, but still it looks under slash, and anything we store into this, it will go into other partition. It will not go into the slash partition. So this is the home users, this is the normal users home directory. Now the next directory is lib. Lib directory stores the library files. Now library files are actually the files which is required to run the softwares and applications. So when we configure any application, so those applications actually require the library files. In Windows it is called .dll files. .dll is actually dynamic link libraries. Now here these library files are having the extension of .so. So all those library files which is required to run the applications are stored into this lib directory. Then we have one more library directory, lib directory. It is for lib64. Now it has the lib library files for 64-bit applications. So if we install any 64-bit application, so for that library files will go to this directory. So we have 32-bit library also, and we have 64-bit files library files also. So the directories are for the library files. Then we have the media file, media directory and MLT directory. Now these two directories are empty. If you open these directories, there is nothing in that. It is also nothing here. Now these two directories are for our external drives. Like suppose if you connect a CD DVD, if you add and insert the CD DVD, so you can mount on those those CD DVD or flash into these two directories. These are empty and these are for that use. So we can mount or create a link for using that into these two MNT or media directory. These are empty directories. We don't have any file here, but we can mount our CD DVD and external media here. We can mount our flash onto this directory. So we can use these directories to mount the external storage. Now remember, when you connect a flash, so it will detect as a partition here, new partition, but you can see that there is no partition. It is not showing any partitions here. So the flash you have to mount, just like these partitions are mounted on these directories. We have to mount the flash into some directory here so that we can use the flash, and for that we have these two directories. Now we have the opt directory. This is for the optional files. If you go into this, you will see the RHEL directory here. So there is nothing here right now, but when we install the applications, so we can see the optional files here. Then this directory is for the process. Process, that means all the running process, whatever the process is running in the system, that process file is here in this directory. Remember, I told you that this is the file based operating system. That means if any process we execute or any process we run, those process will be executed as a file, and that file will come here. So if you open this, you can see these are different files or directory, and these are for the process. So whatever the process is running, this file is for that process. So whatever the file you see here, it is actually a process which is running in the background. So this proc directory stores the running process files. Then here we have the root directory. Now this root directory is actually for the root user's home directory. Root user is our administrator, and administrator, when the administrator logs in and when it is stored anything into the desktop, download and document, it will go into this home directory. But right now I can't open this directory because I logged in as a normal user, and normal users don't have right to open the root user's home directory. If I try to open, it will say that this location could not be displayed because we don't have any right, because I am logged in as a normal user. Then we run directory has all the running files. We can say running process, running PIDs or any other running process things. So there are lots of running things are there. So all the running process and process IDs, all the process IDs of the running process will remain here. Now this is sbin directory. Then we have the srv directory for the different services files. Right now we don't have. Then this is for the system related files, for the system files. Then this is the temp directory for the temporary files. Now this usr directory is actually for the application. We can take it as a Windows program file. In Windows we have program file directory. This program file directory actually stores all the program files. When we install any application, so all the files related to the application go into this program file. So here it will go into this users directory. Now here in Linux, when we install any directory, any program or application, so what it will do, it will give us configuration files to configure the application. It will give the command files to run the commands to manage the application, and it will give some other resources. So what all those things will be stored into here, the commands, the services, the configuration files, everything will be under this usr file, usr directory. So if I open this directory, I can see the binary directory is here, I can see the etc directory is also here, I can see the sbin directory is also here, services, resources, lib directories are also there, temp directory shortcut is also there. So this usr is actually a program file directory. Now this bin, sbin, this lib64, it is showing here, but it is also showing under the slash, but actually it is a link here. If you see the small arrow here, this is a link here. This bin, sbin, lib64, lib, these are link. So actual location of this directories are under usr. This is the actual location, this is the actual directory, and it is only having a link under the slash for ease of use or ease of configuration, and even for the backward compatibility, because some old applications in previous versions of Linux, the main location for these bin files and bin directory and lib directories were under slash, but now they are moved into this directory, and we have a link here. Previously we have the original directory here, and the link we have under the usr directory. So this is a directory where we have all the application files. Then this var directory is for the variable data. Variable data, that means when we install, suppose a database services, we install the SQL servers. So all the database services file, all the database files will store into this var directory. If suppose I create the web server, so all the web servers data will be stored into this var directory. If suppose I create the virtual machines, hypervisor, and we create virtual machines, so all the virtual machines data will be also under, by default goes to this var directory. So by default all the application data or database applications will also go and store it into this directory. So this directory can have a lot of data and it can use a lot of space. So specifically for this directory also we should create another partition. So we should create a separate partition and mount it on this directory, so that it will not put the load on the slash. On the slash it will not put the load, so that it will not fill the space for the system files. So system files will remain separate, and your application data will remain separate. Okay, so this is a slash, you can see here in the bottom. This is a slash directory, and under the slash directory we have all these system directories, and these system directories do their job and they are for some reasons. Okay, so this is what the application places. And then what, if you go down here, so here you will see this 1 out of 4. It is actually for desktop here. If I click on this, so it says it is a workspace 1, 2, 3 and 4. So basically we have 4 different workspace. 4 different workspace, that means suppose if I open something on this workspace and it is now running here, and suppose I want to run something else on some other workspace. So I can do what? I can go to the other workspace. I can click on workspace 2. Now that window which I open, it is not closed. It is actually on the other workspace or other virtual desktop, we can say. We can go to 3, we can run something on 4, and we can go back to our first one. It is actually virtual desktop, we can say. Nowadays in Windows 10 they have introduced this feature as a virtual desktop. So if we have some applications running on one desktop and we want to run some more, so we can go to other desktop or other workspace, and that workspace we can run some other applications. Now in the last here, if you see this, so when I click on this, this is what? This is a notification area, and here we got one notification, and this is about subscribing. It is asking you to register your system for support and updates. You want to register now, or you want to remind, you will say remind me later. So it will keep reminding you until you do the subscription. So it will keep reminding you until you do the subscription. So if you don't want to see this and you just want to have a support and update from the Red Hat, then you should register yourself. You should register your Linux, you should register your RHEL, and you should do what? You should get the subscription. So if you want to register now, so it will try to open the subscription manager, and for that it needs the root password. So the subscription can only be done by the root, and for this we need the internet connection also, and we need the subscription also. So this is the Genome desktop, and this is what we are logged in as a normal user. Now suppose I want to log in as a root, the administrator. So first I will log out from here, from this user. And now I am back onto the login screen. Now I want to log in as a super user root, but we are not seeing the root name here. It is only showing the normal user account here. So basically when you are in a graphical, so you can see only the normal user accounts here. We have only one account, but if we have multiple accounts, so we will see those accounts in line here, but we will not see root account here. It is actually not recommended to log in as a root. You can log in as a normal user, and if you want to do some administrative task, then you can switch to another user, but to root user. But it is not recommended to log in as a root user. But if we want to log in as a root user, then what we will do, we will select this option. It says not listed here. Because it is not listed here, so I will select this. Now when you select this, it will ask you to give the username here. So I will give username as a root, then I will select next. Now it is asking me the password of the root user, and then I will sign in. So for logging as a root, we have to select the not listed option. Now root user is logging in first time here, so it will do also configure the desktop for the root user, and it will take some time. Okay, and this first option is also coming here because the root user is logging in first time. So select the language, select the keyboard layout, and now you are set to use, and it will give you some description help or getting started help for the using the Genome desktop. And now we are logged in as a root user. Now this home directory is of root user's home directory. If you open this, so you can see the same directories are there, and also you will see these two files. These two files were not there with the normal user's home directory. This is administrator, this is root user's home directory. Now when you go to this PC, you go to Now you will see the root user's home directory is not having a cross symbol, and it is showing the home symbol, because now this is the user we are logged in, and this is the user's home directory. Previously this home symbol was on this, under home, on this user's home directory, but now this user is not logged in. We are logged in as a root, so we see the root user's home directory here with the home symbol, and now we can open this here, and we can see this is the same directory which is here. The shortcut is on desktop. Now root user has all the permission, everything. It is a administrator, it has unrestricted right on everything, so it can see the directory of home user, normal users also. It can open the home directory and see the home directory and see the file also. But the normal user was not able to open the home directory of the root, but root user can open anything. Now this is the GNOME environment, this is a GNOME desktop, and this is a GNOME classic desktop. But we have a GNOME latest desktop also. This is the classical one. Classical one is the default. So whenever we start the system, it starts with the GNOME classical. But if you want to change the desktop environment, then we can change it at the time of login. For example, I want to log in as a different desktop environment. So I will log out from this user first. So I want to log in as a different desktop environment, and I want to log in as a root. So I will select this. Now here you see there is no option here. Now when I press next, you see this option here. So before giving the password or after giving the password, you have two option to, here is the option to change the desktop environment. Now when you click this, you have these options. These options are by default, GNOME and GNOME Classic. GNOME Classic is by default selected. Now at the time of installation, if we selected to install the KDE, so we can see the KDE also. So we can use the KDE also. Now KDE is different than GNOME, and this is GNOME Classic, and if we want to go to the normal GNOME latest one, so we can select this. First we'll see that. And this is what normal or we can say the latest GNOME. Now it looks different than the classic one. We have the date and time here at the center, different color. We have the option to do this, manage the sound, connectivity, root, login, and the setting, and this lock and shutdown restart option. Now here we have the activities option here. Previously it was having application and places. Now when I click on this, you see like this. In this side you have these workplaces. These are different workplaces we have, and here we have the browser, file manager, application installer, we have help, command terminal, and if you want more application, then you can go here and it will show you all the other applications we have. And if you are not finding something, then you can search it from here also. Now this is what the GNOME latest one. We have already seen the GNOME Classic. Now I will show you the KDE. Now to start the machine with the KDE, I want to log in as a root. So I will first give the username, enter, and the password. Now I will mention what I will go to this setting here and I will select the KDE. Now KDE, we have this KDE Plasma workspace, and also we have KDE Plasma workspace for fail safe session. If it is not possible to start in this, then we can start in here. So let's go with this and let's see how it looks. Now it is loading here, and it more looks like the Windows. It is loading, and now it is loaded. Now it looks more like Windows. Now you see here, it more looks like Windows 7 basically. In Windows 7 we had some desktop tools here. In Windows 7, Windows Vista basically. In Windows Vista we had these gadgets and all these. Now we don't have in Windows 10. So these are these things we can leave here. We have these option to leave this, or now here we have the taskbar like Windows. Here we have the option to for the date, time. We have option for the notifications here. We have these symbols here about the volume, connectivity, language, and the other option. We have option here to see the notifications. Then here in like Windows start menu, we have this red hat menu, application launcher, and when you click on it, you will see these favorites, applications, computer tools, and then recently used and leave. Leave means log out, log, switch, sleep, hibernate, restart, shut down. So it actually more like Windows. It looks like more Windows, not Linux. So this is what the KDE environment. So if suppose you are very much used to use Windows and you like Windows style desktop, then you can go with the KDE. But I like GNOME, so I will log out from here and I will log in as a normal GNOME. Now I will log in as a root and I will log in as a normal GNOME. So this is what the GNOME environment. This is a classic GNOME, and we logged in as a root user. Now in a classic GNOME, we can still use that latest GNOME also. If you are having in Windows, if you are having in the keyboard, there is a Windows key. That Windows key previously it was not working in this Red Hat RHEL Linux. It was not working because that Windows key was dedicated for the Windows machine. Now we can use this into our Linux also. When you press it into the classical GNOME, you will get this. You will get the look of that latest GNOME, and you can use your system as is latest GNOME. These are 4 different workspace, and here you have the applications favorites, you have terminal, you have applications here. And if you want to go back to your classic, press the Windows key again, you will go back to your normal. Now this is our GNOME desktop environment, and this is the graphical tools we have to manage our Linux. Now one more thing, in our Linux, in our RHEL 7, this is actually multiple user. It is a multi-user operating system. Multi-user operating system, that means at the same time thousands of users can log into the system and can use the system. In Windows, if you see in the Windows client operating systems are not multi-user. Not multi-user, that means if suppose anyone logs in from the remotely, then what happened, the account, the user, the machine will log out. It locks the system. You can only use it from one place. But this we can use it, thousands of users can access the Linux system. Now thousands of users or hundreds of users cannot access at the same time. They cannot sit on the single machine. They can access it from the remote location. So from remote location, hundreds of users can access the system. It is multi-user operating system. But at the same time, when you are sitting on the system, so you can switch between 7 different accounts. Like if suppose you are having a, you are working on some configurations, you are working on something, and you want to test the configuration. Like you are a root user, you are administrator, you are configuring something, but you want to check the setting as a normal user, that the normal user, how the normal user is getting the setting, how the normal user is getting the setting which you are configuring. Now for that you have to do what? You have to log out, then log in as a normal user, then check, then again log out, then log in as a root user to do the configuration. Now if you don't want to do that, then you can do what? You can switch from one user account to other user account without logging out. So we can switch the user here in the Linux, and we have the 7 options for it. 7 options, that means we have 7 different terminals where we can log in as a different users. So by default we have 7 terminals. From the keyboard, if you see the keyboard, you have the function keys. Function key F1 to F7, we have different user accounts, we have different terminals. So from the function key F1 to F7, we have different terminals, and we can use those terminals to log in as a different users. In one terminal we can log in as a different user, in other terminal we can log in as a different user, and at the same time we can log in as a different 7 accounts on different those 7 different terminals. Now on those 7 terminals we have only one as a graphical, only one as a graphical, and rest of the terminals are command line. Now to go to those different terminals, and if you want to switch the terminal, then we will press from the keyboard, we will press Ctrl Alt plus those function keys. Now for example, right now we are in the graphical terminal. Remember, there is only one graphical terminal and rest of the terminals are command line. So we can also say that to go from graphical terminal to the command line terminal or to other terminal, what we do, we press Ctrl Alt and then we can press any of those function key like F2, F3, F4, F5, F6 or F7, because F1 is already on the graphical. So I will press F2, and what we see here is a command line terminal, and this is what? This is the F2 terminal. This is on F2. I will log in here with the user account tag. Now this is our F2. Now we are in the graphical, we are in the command line terminal now. Now if I want to move to other terminal now from this command line terminal, then I don't have to press Alt Control, I just have to press Alt. So I will press only Alt, and then I can switch between all the other terminals, like for example F3, F4, F5, F6, F7, and goes back to, I want to go back to F2, so I will select Alt, I will press Alt F2, where this user is logged in. Now for example, what I will show you, this is F2, so I will press the number here, F2. This is not a command, it is just for the introduction. Then I will switch to other terminal F3 and I will log in as a same user here. Here I will type F3 because this terminal is F3. Now I will go to F4. Here I will log in as a root. We can log in as any other user account. Right now we have only these 2 accounts. Now this one is F4, so I will type F4 here. Then I will move to other F5. Here I will log in as a root also. This is F5, so I will type here F5 for the identification. Then I go to F6. Here I will log in as a other user, normal user. This is F6. I go to now. If I move from here, let's say I want to go to F2, so I will press Alt Control F2, and you can see F2 there. This is F2 terminal. I want to go to F3, so I press Alt F3, F4, F5, F6, F3, F2. Now when I want to go back to the graphical one, so graphical one is on F1. So if you want to go back to the graphical one, then you will press Alt F1 and you will get back to the graphical one. So we have these 7 different terminals from F1 to F7, or we can say F6. And then if we want to move from one terminal to other terminal, from graphical to command line, we will press Ctrl Alt and the key, whatever the key you press. Let's say I will go to F4. So you can see now I press F4 and I go to F4 terminal. So we can go to any other terminal, and same as if you are coming from the graphical terminal to command line, then you will press Alt Control, and when you are already into the command line terminal, then you don't have to press Alt Control, you just have to press Alt, and Alt F1 is the graphical one. So this is what a different terminals we have, where we can switch the user from one account, one terminal to other terminal, and we can log in with the different accounts there. Now if we are under the graphical terminal and we want to run the commands, then we can run the commands from the command sudo terminal. It is called actually sudo terminal. So from the sudo terminal we can run the commands. Now to open the sudo terminals, you can go to applications. In the favorites we have this terminal option here, which can open the sudo terminal on this graphical. Now it is called sudo. Sudo means it is actually virtual. Sudo means not real, because we are not logging in as a command line terminal. We are logged in as a graphical, but we are using the terminal to give the commands, and that terminal is giving us sudo login. So we click on this, so it opens this sudo terminal. It is called sudo terminal, where you can run all the commands which you want to manage. So if you are under the graphical desktop, so you can open this terminal to configure the command line, configure from the command line. So you have that here under application favorites, or also you have it under this utility. This is the actual place of it. So under the utility you have this terminal, but it is directly given under the favorites. Then you can directly open the terminal by right clicking on the desktop, and then you have an option of open terminal. So you can open the terminal directly from the desktop also. And you see I have opened 2 terminals here on the same login. That is why it is called sudo terminal. So we can open multiple different terminals to do the job, and these terminals are called sudo terminals. And the terminals which is a real terminal here, these are the terminals where we logged in as a command terminal. So these terminals are the TTY terminals. It is called TTY terminals. TTY terminals, that means this is the terminal type and this is the terminal, normal terminal. Now if you want to see you are logged in on which terminal, then you can run TTY command. So when you run TTY command, you can see you are logged in which terminal, and here it is showing that I am logged in here on TTY2. This is F2. F2 is TTY2, and this terminal file is also under this dev directory, where all the device files are there. You can see this TTY2 is under dev and dev is under slash. If I go to the other terminal, let's say F5, and if here I run the command tty, so it shows that this is tty5. Now if I go to graphical one, and here if I run the command tty, so it shows this PTS0. PTS means pseudo terminals. Now pseudo means it is starting with P. P is a silent. So pseudo terminals 0. This is the first terminal I opened, and this one is the second terminal. So when I run the command tty, it shows PTS 1. So this is 0 and this is what? PTS 1. So these are the pseudo terminals. Now we can do anything from the graphical. We have lots of tools available, graphical tools available to manage the server, manage this from the desktop, from the graphical, but still it is actually tools what we have here. It is for the managing of desktop server, desktop machine. That means we can use this RHEL as a desktop client, and we can manage it through fully from the graphical things. So these graphical tools are the tools which we can use to manage this desktop version. But for configuring the server, for using this RHEL as a server, we need advanced configurations, and those advanced configurations we have to do it from command. We can't do it from the graphical, and for that we have to know that how we can run the commands and how we can use this Linux from command line. So graphically we can manage this, but only till the desktop version, till the desktop client. So all those settings, graphical settings we have here, graphical tools we have, those are all related to the desktop management, only for the desktop things. But for managing, for using it as a server, we have to go for the advanced configuration, and that we can do it only from command line. So whatever we do or whatever we see here in this lecture, we will see on command line. So we will do it from the command line. So everything we will do it from the command line, and we will do it from through the commands, from the basic to the advanced. So what we will do, we will start from the basics, and then we will go on to do the advanced things. Now for doing the advanced things, we need to know the basics, and we need to know the basic commands of it. So we will start this Linux with the basic commands, and then with the help of those basic commands we can do the configurations, we can do the advanced configurations. Now what are the basic commands? Basic commands is like we do it in the graphical very easily without thinking about it. Like for example, creating any file. What we do, we can create any file very easily in graphical. What we do, we can just right click on it and we can create the file. We want to create a directory. Right click, create a directory. Right click, create a file. We want to copy the file from one place to other place. How you will do? Just right click, copy, right click, paste. We can do it same as Windows graphical. This Linux graphical is also same. So this graphical thing which we do very easily by just right clicking it, like we do create the file, and for editing the file what we do, we just double click on the file, it will open in the editor, and we edit the file normally like notepad. So here is also we have a files, we have a tool like we can open the file by double clicking it, it opens into the graphical editor, and then we can just edit it. Now these things we do it graphically very easily. Through the graphics we'll do the through the GUI terminal we do it very easily. Now the same thing we have to do it from the command line. So basic means what? We should know that how we can do create the files, how we can do edit the file, modify the files, how we can create directories, how we can change the directories from one directory to other directory, how we can see the directories, how we can list the directories, how we can check the content of the directories, then how we can copy some file, how we can move some file, how we can delete some files. So these are the basic things. Then we should know how we should take the help, take the help for the related to the commands configurations. So we can do something from the command line. So that is what the basic thing. So we are going to start from the basics, and we will see what are the basic commands there to manage the basic things like copy the file, creating the file, editing the file, moving the file, deleting the files and directories and all that. Then we will go for some advanced commands where we can use to administrate the Linux. So in this lecture we will see how we will start from the basic commands, then we'll go on to see some advanced command. Now advanced command, that means in the Linux we have thousands of commands actually. Right now there are thousands of commands available here. Based on the application we install, we get thousands of commands. Now all those commands are not possible to remember. Remember, we can't remember all those commands and what they do. Now what we do is that we will learn in this lecture that what is the command required to do the administrative tasks. This is RHEL, this is Red Hat Enterprise Linux. It is for managing it is for the server operating system. It is a server and it is used for the servers. So we will see how we can manage this system and how we can use it to configure those different servers to provide the services. Now related to that, we will see all those commands which is required to manage and administrate this server. Where the commands are lots of commands we have, we will see the help. That also I will show you that if you see some command, then how you can take the help of the command and how you can know more about the commands, that what that command do and how we can use that command. So even if you see some command which we have not which I don't teach, I have not teach, and if you see some command that I have not teach, then still you can take the help and you can see what that command do. So we are going to start from the basics. We know now how it looks, how we can log in, how we can open the terminal, how we can switch one terminal from the other terminal. So we know now these basic things. So we know now how we can open the terminal. Now what we can see now that how we can manage it through the command line, and we will start it from the basics. So this is just an introduction of this Linux RHEL operating system, how it looks, how we use it, how we log in. Now in the next lectures we will see that how we can use it through the command line, and we will start it from the basic commands and we'll go on to use the advanced commands, and then we will go on to see how we can manage this system. Like we can create user accounts, manage user accounts, then we see how we can manage the disk storage, then we see how we can manage the applications, firewalls, network. Then we will go on to see how we can configure the servers, different servers like DNS server, DHCP server, mail server. So we will see web servers. We will see all those things in the later lectures. So in the future lectures, so we will see all those things, but we will start from the basics.